Hi, I'm with Nancy Denison at the beautiful Mendocino Art Center in their textile studio, and Nancy is a member of the textile art community, and she is here to tell us a little bit about the use of mushrooms, dyes, and textiles. Nancy, welcome.
Thank you.
So how did you get involved and become interested in mushrooms and textiles?
Well, I arrived in Mendocino 25 years ago, last month, and to become part of the textile apprenticeship program that was here, a 3-year program with Lolly Jacobson. And a series of instructors would appear and teach us all sorts of things, including the fall of this year, of the year, Miriam Rice would come over and tell us about extracting pigment from mushrooms so that we could dye our fibers. It turned out that in the early 70s that Miriam was interested in mushrooms, and also being a teacher and instructor of children here at the Art Center. She was one of the founding members of the Art Center, along with Bill and Jenny Zaka. And she was always looking for projects for the kids, and somehow a piece of yarn got put into a pot of mushrooms and it came out yellow, and this began her search for color in mushrooms.
Nancy, could you tell me what kind of mushrooms lend themselves well to the extraction of dyes, and tell us a little bit about the process of how you remove the dye from the mushroom?
Well, I would, for those who want to go out into our local Mendocino forest looking for mushrooms, there's one that has a lot of yellow pigment in it that's easy to find. In fact, I was just excited to find one in my backyard. I had cut down some pine trees about 6 years ago, and the stumps are dying in the ground. And this particular mushroom, called Phaeolus schweinitziae, is a polypore that produces a large amount of yellow pigment. And it's the mushroom books even refer to it as the dyer's polypore, because the mycologists are very aware how we're using mushrooms to extract pigment, and so I have one in my backyard right now. So that's the one I would suggest looking for yellow. Then another one, it's a tiny little reddish-brown mushroom that is found in the pine forests. It's hard to see them, and they aren't that plentiful here. I usually find them in December if it's a good year. There's pine trees and huckleberry and manzanita. The mushroom is the color of manzanita bark. That's sort of this dark reddish brown. Then the third mushroom I would suggest looking for is produces purples and greens from the same mushroom. And it's the name of that one is Omphallotus olivescens, and it's kind of a yellowish orange mushroom that looks similar to a chanterelle, only they're usually a bigger clump, and maybe tinges of kind of an olive color. And you not only get purple out of that mushroom and greens out of the same dye pot, which is exciting. The basic process for getting the dye is to break up your mushroom in water, bring it to a simmer for about an hour, and that gives a chance for all the pigment to come out of the mushroom into the water. Then you would put your yarns into the water, and then the yarns will take up the dye. That's basically it.
That's great. Nancy, I see that you have brought a couple of examples of textiles that have mushroom dyes incorporated in them. Could you explain a little bit about the items that you have?
Okay, well, as all natural dyes, wool takes up the dye best. Any protein fibers, animal fibers, wool and silk. We dye silk as well as wool. I happen to have a scarf on that I did about 20 years ago. It's held the dye color pretty well. This is an Afghan that was made for Miriam in honor of her 90th birthday, and it was done by a Danish group. And it has just about every color you can imagine in it.
And these are all mushroom dyes.
And all the yarns in this Afghan were dyed with mushrooms. All the color you see
They're
is
so
from
vibrant.
mushrooms.
So Nancy, people that are interested in learning more, how would they go about finding out more information?
Well, like I had said before, there have been 3 books published over the years, all of which are out of print. Some people are finding them on the internet through the used book networking. Also, we have a website, and the easiest thing to do is to go online and to the website, which is mushroomsforcolor.com.
Will you be having any classes during the festival?
Well, here in Mendocino, the Ford House will be involved. There's every November there's an exhibit, and we're usually part of the exhibit. And I plan to be there on the weekend of the 14th and 15th. I think it's the 14th and 15th of November, and I'll be there to answer questions and demonstrate dyeing and paper making as well. It's more than just dyeing.
So mushrooms are also used in the making of handmade papers.
Miriam Rice was a person who was very frugal and did not waste anything. And when she would do some dyeing, there was always, after the pigment was extracted from the mushroom, the mushroom solids were still in the pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she thought, oh, what can I do with this? So rather than just throwing it out. So she started experimenting, making paper. Now the first paper from the ones, particularly from the fleshy mushrooms, didn't hold together. And then she wanted to be a purist also and to make paper without adding anything to it. So when she started experimenting with making paper from polypore mushrooms, which are the harder type mushrooms, the conchs and the turkey tails and things growing on dead logs, not the fleshy mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
but she found that the paper held together well and without adding anything, and so we refer to that as polypore paper, and that is where the paper making has gone from there, and a lot of people are experimenting with that.
Well, Nancy, thank you so much. Fascinating subject, another wonderful aspect to the wonderful world of mushrooms, and we hope you enjoy your time at the festival. And thank you, Nancy, again for joining us.